Have you ever heard of Friedrich Nietzsche? He's German, and I would like to talk about him tonight. I am reading this write up from Claude. Let's dive right into it. And excuse my pronunciation, my English might not sound very eloquent. Nietzsche, sorry, I have a pen and a notebook with me so as to help me get the right information and further help me to properly understand who he is. Nietzsche is one of the most electric and misunderstood thinkers in excuse me, all of philosophy. Here is the core of what he was actually saying. The central problem he was solving. Nietzsche looked at 19th century Europe and saw a civilization in quiet crisis. God as a foundation for meaning and morality was collapsing under the weight of science and reason. His famous line, God is dead, wasn't a celebration, it was a diagnosis. He was asking if the old source of meaning is gone, what fills the void? His answer was that most people would fill it with nihilism, herd mentality, or shallow comfort. He wanted something bolder, the will of the will to power, not power over others. Excuse me. The new subtopic is the will to power, not power over others. That is the misreading. The will to power is the drive to become, to overcome, to create, to impose form on chaos. It's the force behind art, philosophy, excellence. It's what drives a person to master something rather than coast. For Nietzsche, the highest human expression is self overcoming, not domination of others, but conquest of your own limitations. A new subtopic, the Ubermensch in brackets Overman. His vision of the ideal human, not a Superman in the comic book sense, more like a person who creates his own values rather than inheriting them, affirms life fully, including its suffering, doesn't need external validation, not from God, not from the crowd, turns pain into power and meaning. It's an ideal of radical self authorship. In the next subtopic, we have eternal recurrence. One of his most haunting thought experiments. Imagine you had to live your life every moment, every failure, every joy, over and over, infinitely. Would you want to? Could you say yes to that? It wasn't meant literally, it was a test of whether you truly affirm your life to secretly resent it. The person who can say yes to eternal recurrence has genuinely embraced existence. The next subtopic we have slave morality versus master morality. He argued that conventional morality, especially Christian morality, was invented by the weak to contain the strong. Words like meek, humble, suffer patiently, wherein is reading a reframing of weakness as virtue. He called this resent, resentment. Resentment dressed up as righteousness. Excuse me. The spelling of resentment here is Ressentiment. Resentment. That is my alarm. 10 p.m. used to be my bedtime. Back to the topic. Once again, the subtopic is slave morality versus master morality. I will take that again. He argued that conventional morality, especially Christian morality, was invented by the weak to contain the strong. Words like meek, humble, suffer patiently, wherein is reading a reframing of weakness as virtue. He called this resentment, hyphen, resentment dressed up as righteousness. Master morality, by contrast, defines good and bad based on strength, creativity, and nobility, not guilt and sin. This is where it gets dangerous and where it was most wrong, or at least most incomplete, hmm, according to Claude. Next subtopic, where it gets pushed back, including from faith. 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 Not Fate. Faith. Nietzsche was brilliant, but He was also reacting against a caricature of Christianity, a passive, guilt ridden, life denying version. He never seriously engaged with the tradition at its strongest. The faith you hold actually challenges Nietzsche at his own level. The cross isn't the symbol of weakness he thought it was. It's God Himself entering suffering and overcoming it. The resurrection is the ultimate affirmation of life, and the call to love your enemy, to serve, to suffer with purpose, that is not resentment. That is a different kind of power entirely. C.S. Louis, Dostoevsky, and G.K. Chesterton each took Nietzsche seriously and answered him well. Worth exploring if you want the intellectual counter. Why it still matters. Even if you reject his conclusions, Nietzsche forces you to ask hard questions. Are you living by values you actually choose or ones you just absorbed? Are you creating or just consuming? Are you saying yes to life or running from it? Those are questions worth sitting with. That is the write up about Nietzsche. That is quite interesting. And let's talk about this. The write up starts with the central problem he was solving. The central problem he was solving is the bridge or the difference. I wouldn't say bridge, the difference between God as a foundation or meaning and morality and this collapsing under the weight of science and reason. If you think about this, what would you say There is a phrase here that says God is dead. God as a foundation or meaning and morality, and this collapsing under the weight of science and reason. My personal experience as a Christian, I believe in God because I feel Him. There is the definition of faith, faith, which is faith is the belief in what you don't see, the belief in the absence of evidence. That is what I used to hear growing up, absence of evidence. But that is wrong because there is evidence that God exists. Just you as a human being, you are a proof of the existence of God. Think about it, and I want you to critically analyze this. Your body, your body reaction. You sleep, you wake up, you yawn, you stretch your muscles, your brain, your anatomy, the way your body functions. None of these things are controlled by you, but yet everything happens. And then slowly you age, you grow, and at some point you die. And before you were born, you never existed. Then your parents had sex and they give birth to you. All this is a proof that different reactions occurred before you existed. And after you existed, you slowly aged. And this shows that there is a greater power above your own self that is in play because you do not control your aging, you do not control your respiration. In science, there is something called Mr. Niger, that is M for movement, R for respiration, N for nutrition, I for irritability, G for growth, E for excretion, R for reproduction, D for death. I lifted my hand, but according to scientists, my brain passed the information from either my medulla oblongata to my cerebrum to my nerves and then sent it to the new through the neurons and responded to my hand lifting. In as much as science can explain that, there is a greater force that even supersedes the control system of my body, which is the force that created the control system of my body in the first place. Because a control system doesn't just magically originate, it has to come from somewhere. Two, respiration. I breathe in, I breathe out. Science tells us that air is made up of nitrogen, oxygen, and different gases. But when I breathe in, my body breathes in air and utilizes oxygen, specifically oxygen. And then the oxygen goes into my blood and there is the oxidation process. And then I breathe out carbon dioxide. And all these things, in as much as I inhale the air, I don't control the muscles that inhale the air. All I do is just pull in air through my nostrils. I don't control the expansion of my diaphragm. I don't control the extraction of my thoracic cavity. And when I exhale, I don't control the contraction of my diaphragm or the contraction of my thoracic cavity. There is a greater force that does this. And then nutrition, when I eat and the food goes through my mouth and turns into bolus and goes through my esophagus, through my throat, I don't control the digestion process or the digestive process. I do not control the release of the digestive enzymes. No. And then when it goes through my large intestine, of my small intestine to my large intestine, my ileum, jejunum, duodenum, and then it goes around my body and the nutrients are being extracted into my bloodstreams, carbohydrates giving me glucose, protein giving me amino acid, vitamins giving me the various forms of vitamins, minerals giving me minerals, fats giving me adipose, lipose, lipase, all these enzymes functioning on all these food nutrients in my body or all these food in my body. I don't control the secretion of the enzymes and I don't control the absorption of these nutrients. And then when I excrete it out, I don't control the process of the excretion. My body has been designed to carry out the entire process. As a human being, if you are a bit curious and you watch the production of cars, you'd realize that the entire car system has been created by the manufacturer, first through the designer. Although the car moves and it operates and everything does what it needs to do, the car doesn't perform the process by itself. When you put in the petrol, when you put in the engine oil, when you put in the brake fluid, it is not the car that does the thinking. The system has been designed. That is how the human body is. I don't think before my food starts to digest, and yet it digests because it has been designed by a higher being, by the architect, the manufacturer, for these things to occur without my own conscious involvement with it. And that is why in science we have something called reflex actions because these actions are not controlled by you. If you put your hand on a hot surface, you remove it because your neurons get the information from the hot surface, which is interpreted as pain. And so you do not even wait to think, you just remove it. And all these other processes, this can also, in a way, be classified as reflex action because I do not control the secretion of my glycogen. I do not control the secretion of my insulin. What happens is when glucose is noticed in my stomach, there is a form of communication. There are some receptors. The insulin is produced by the liver, I think. Is it the liver or the bile? Glucagon liver, I don't know. But these things are activated in your body and then boom, they get produced. Why? Because the code has been written that when this meets this, this should be this. When you go to irritability, that is your response to stimuli. You don't control your response to the stimuli flying around you. If someone pinches you You don't control how your skin would interpret the pinch. No, you don't control it. A person pinches you, you react to it. Why? Because you have been programmed that way by the higher being. Science can interpret it, but science cannot tell you where this manufacture comes from. Science will tell you that particles came together, then there was an explosion, which is the Big Bang theory. And then we have unicellular organisms over the years slowly coming together to form multicellular organisms, and then coming together we now have the theory of evolution. So we now have you from unicellular organisms to, if memory serves me right, but you go from uh we all came from water. So we came from amphibians to reptiles to aves to mammals, I think. But before amphibians to reptiles to aves to mammals, before amphibians we have yeah, it's been a while I did this, but basically evolution just tells you how you went from amphibians to reptiles to avians to mammals, but it doesn't tell you the intricacies of how you actually existed. And then you have the theory of, oh, the part of your body that you used evolved with you, the part of the body that you did not use did not evolve with you. We have some things that now later became your vestigial organs. Science explained, or science tried to explain how we came as humans, but science cannot give us the real understanding of how we actually existed. There are different propositions, but these propositions do not satisfy the actual curiosity. And in my other videos, I would definitely make a video talking about the theory of evolution and how humans came to be. Like and subscribe. This is going to be an amazing journey. Then we have growth. Science will tell you you need calcium, you need protein, you need magnesium, you need zinc to grow physically, for your hand to grow longer, your muscles to grow bigger, for your legs to grow longer, for your limbs, your joints. Science will teach you how growth occurs in your body, but science will not tell you how the nutrients from your protein that becomes your amino acid is actually making you grow. It will tell you the transcription of protein. It will tell you how it activates your thyroid gland and the hormones that are produced from your thyroid gland produces your thyroxine, which is your growth hormone. It will tell you how these hormones are being secreted. It will show you the pathways, but it cannot give you the entirety, which is how this manufacturing came to existence. It can give you some proposed theories, which is from your evolution and how you came from your childbirth, from the fetus to the zygote. So first we have the sperm cell and the egg cell fusing together through binary fusion, and then coming together. Then so we have the insemination, then the binary fission for both of them, but this is not division, so this is fusion. So binary fusion of this is the fusion of the sperm, not binary, but the fusion of the sperm cell and the egg cell, and then them dividing from 2 to 4, 4 to 6, dividing to your first trimester, dividing, growing, to become the zygote, to become the fetus, then you become the baby, then you give back to the baby. But Science will not tell you how the bone was being made. It can tell you about the calcification and the bone formation, but it will not tell you how these cells are taking structure. Actually, to you, you know what? In a way, I think I'm starting to see why the 19th century Europeans were starting to doubt the existence of God, because I want us to be free thinkers on this platform, in as much as I'm trying to let you understand that God exists. And I know that for a fact that God exists. Don't get me wrong. And I can still even use this Mr. Ninjadi to let you know that God exists. It is still very astonishing that science can explain this to the tiniest level. And I don't want this video to be 5 hours long. So I'm going to just talk about this and then make different series for different train of thoughts, or else I'm going to get lost in this video and everything will just be like a food web. So let's keep it simple. Simplicity beats everything else. But in as much as science can really explain so many things, science cannot explain the formation of your skin, although it can tell us how the skin cells are being shaped, your epithelial cells. It can tell you the type of cells that form your skin, but it cannot tell you how those cells come into existence. It can tell you the division, but it cannot tell you how there is life in them. It cannot tell you how those cells, why they magically come together to fuse together. But if I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section, please. And then we have reproduction. And then we have death. Science will let you understand why a man would see a woman and have his sexual urges, how your eyes, you physically see it, then your it sends information through your neurons and it goes into your brain, and then there's an arousal that's is linked to your, I think, your cerebrum, and then sends it back to your penis and you get an erection. Science can explain that, but science cannot explain the fundamentals of a man and a woman coming together to reproduce. Actually, science can. Oh my god. I see why people can be atheists and agnostics. See, I see it, but I'm only talking like this because this is very impromptu for me and I haven't done most of my research. So I'll do a lot of my research. So let me not go deep into something I don't really understand and I'm not prepared for, or I'm not equipped for. But science cannot explain death. In as much as the cells die and you just die, science cannot explain where you go to after you die. Well, science will tell you that after you die, you cease to exist. But do you think you cease to exist? Hmm. So let's, for my next video, let's ask some questions. One, number one, evolution of life or evolution of man. And let me say life for other non-living things, for other living things that are not humans. So evolution of man and life. Then two, where do we go? I rushed that. Where do we go when we die? And can science explain it? Then three, Mr. Nietshze. What is Mr. Niger D and can and how can we relate this to evolution? Three questions. One, what is evolution of man and life? Two, where do we go when we die? What is? I wrote what is in front of the evolution. Two, where do we go when we die? And can science explain it? Three, what is Mr. Niger D and how can we relate this to evolution? And so, reproduction, how do we reproduce? We reproduce through sex. Asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, we have this is a form of reproduction that doesn't involve sexual contact between a male gamete or a female gamete or a male organism or a female organism. That is asexual. And this is taking place by the individual organism. And guess what? Because it is asexual doesn't mean only unicellular organisms perform asexual reproduction. Multicellular organisms also perform asexual reproduction. So, what is a unicellular organism and what is a multicellular organism? A unicellular organism is an organism that has a single cell, while a multicellular organism is an organism that is composed of several cells. And how does this play? Well, most unicellular organisms reproduce by asexual reproduction because it is a unicellular organism, meaning it is a single cell. Humans are multicellular organisms. And because humans are multicellular organisms, this means that we are made up of several cells. In biology, we have cells coming together to form tissues, then eh, tissues coming together to form organs come together to form systems, then systems comes together to form the human body. So we have cells, tissues, we have organs, we have systems, then your systems forms your body. Well, I think because your system's respiratory system combining with your I don't want to do that because I don't want to over analyze this thing. So I will just make a different video for this. Then we have death. Death is called cell apoptosis, which is your cell dying, just die. That is wrong. I think cell apoptosis is death of cell in cancer, not in humans. But I'm not so sure. I don't want to misinform you guys. I could just be googling everything I'm telling you right now, but we're talking about Frederick Nietzsche, not biology. And I'm trying to let you understand that I will understand why the 19th century Europeans saw a civilization like Frederick said, yeah, he says that Frederick looked at 19th century Europe and saw a civilization in quiet crisis. And I would understand why there would be a quiet crisis in 19th century Europe if science was already advancing, or rather, since science was already advancing, because advancement in science really explains a lot of things. But There is a train of thought and a school of philosophy that science is demonic, and although that sounds quite mundane in thinking, because science is one of the reasons why humanity is able to elevate. It is the fusion of humanity. It is why human is elevating, developing. But then there is a school of thought that says that most scientists, especially the ones that propagated theories and laws, were possessed by demons, and demons gave them these thoughts and ideas and knowledge to give them as a gift because they sold their soul to the devil. And because they did this, the devil gave it to them. And because the devil gave it to them, they were able to convince society that God does not exist. Although, as a Christian, and specifically from listening to Apostle Suleiman's message one time, he said that most of the things that exist in the physical realm exist in the spiritual realm, or rather, it is the knowledge from the spiritual realm that allows the manifestations of some things in the physical realm. And I believe in this. So I believe that the devil might have given some people gifts in theories and laws to be able to advance science. I also think God can also give people as a gift. I don't think God would give you the knowledge of how to create atomic bomb or to create weapons of mass destructions, AK-47s and snipers. I don't think God will give you that knowledge. But I think God will give you the knowledge of medicine. But think about it. If the devil can give people knowledge on how to create atomic bombs, don't you think it is also the devil that probably gave them the knowledge of how to create medicine, good medicines, and well, how to facilitate the medical parts of science, which has to do with humans, if that makes sense, and not just humans, but like development and growth and just cures to diseases and drugs. Food for thought. Think about it. Let me know in the comment section. And so I would understand why the Europeans in 19th century would think God is dead and science and critical reason supersedes the existence of God. Because even right now, as a Christian, the only reason why I know God exists is because of my feelings and goosebumps and atmosphere. Not because I see God or I have a dialogue with God. Conversations with God is usually a monologue. And when it's time for you to listen to God, you read your Bible, which is open to an interpretation or series of interpretations. But that is really not a proof of the existence of a supreme being. Because why wouldn't you just talk to us? Maybe because he is a supreme being and we are humans and we are also sinners. If he talks to us, we would probably just combust. That is a possibility. But regardless of this possibility, this inability to easily communicate with us is a reason why a lot of humans would doubt his existence, because the communication between God and man is quite technical. It is it's very abstract, to be honest. For most people, even for most Christians, ask them if they hear from God. They will tell you yes. How? A thought in their heart. That is not a very solid proof now, is it? You can't tell me because you thought of something or you saw something written somewhere and it's resonated with you, that means God told you. No. Like, oh, what if it is just your intuition or your thoughts? What if you accidentally see something and it resonates with your soul, or it resonates with your mind, or it fits into what you are going through? Does that mean God just talks through things around you that resonates with you? That is not really very supreme being way of talking now, is it? Let me know in the comment section. And so the first subtopic, which is the central problem he was solving, makes sense. And what is the central problem? Well, the central problem he was solving was that God, as a foundation for meaning and morality, was collapsing under the weight of science and reason. Now, how was he solving that problem? Because the next line says his famous line, God is dead, wasn't a celebration. It was a diagnosis. He was asking, if the old source of meaning is gone, what fills the void? Let's assume we live in a society where we think God does not exist. I think that society would be in, let me not assume, because initially I was going to say dystopia, which means everyone would start fighting, there'll be complete chaos and disorder. Why? Because religion helps man to facilitate growth. Religion helps man to create order. The thought of an afterlife keeps people in check. If I tell you that if you sin today, you will die and you will burn in hell for the rest of eternity, that would make you think twice before doing wrong things, because you wouldn't want to burn in hell for the rest of eternity. So, religion helps to keep law and order in the society. And if religion, which centers itself around God, was removed, then surely society would fall into chaos. But that is a train of thought. That is not a fact. Because a world where there is no God, paint a picture with me. This earth, every human believes there is no God. There are no gods. We are just humans. And we are the ones ruling ourselves. We make the law. And then we all come together as a species to create our own laws and facilitate our growth and development in the society without paying tribute to any external deity or expecting any external deity or force to come and help us or resolve our problems. And we absolutely believe that when we die, we will cease to exist. Do you think that would be a world of dystopia or a world of utopia? Because in as much as the God factor keeps people in check, there is that interference that there is a being somewhere. And so even if I sin, he's going to forgive me and he will accept me into his world. And because there is even a thought of an afterlife, we live by double standards. Don't get me wrong, there is the positive part that allows you to act properly and wants you to go to the world of the gods or the world of God, where you can live in utopia for the rest of eternity. But because you also know that God exists and He will forgive you for some of your iniquities, you do some bad things and then you just ask God for forgiveness. But let's say humans rule humans and we create a structure to society whereby, in as much as gods or God does not exist, we create a society where we want ourselves to thrive and grow. Do you think humans are capable of creating a society of utopia or a society of dystopia? Let me know in the comment section. Because I think the God factor, in as much as he allows humans to be in check, he also allows humans to do some things that are not right. Take for an take for an example Nigeria. The God factor is one of the reasons why Nigeria is a terrible country. Why? Imagine Nigeria was a country ruled by humans, just for humans, without the hope of God or the existence of God. If a leader steals, think about it. Humans or Nigerians specifically create a structure where every budget is created and the leader is 100% transparent. So let's say to this year's budget is 5 million. The leader will show us the 5 million. It's going to show us the bank transfer that he is making to different sectors. It's going to show us the procurement that they are making. It's going to show us real life evidence of the things they bought with the 5 million. And it will show us the places that they put these things step by step. So everything is 100% transparent. And then, if you're a leader and you're unable to produce this information, we come out, we bring you, and we lynch you. We don't expect God to come from heaven to judge you. We don't have to pray to God. We don't have to wish. We don't have to hope. We don't have to wait. The law is in our hands. We are the law, and we all stick by the rules that we create in society for society without waiting for an external party. Do you think humans would achieve a state of utopia or dystopia? Let me know in the comment section. And I'm not saying this would be a perfect world because humans can't wake up one morning and want to take another person's land. But in as much as this is possible, we can also still try to govern ourselves without the existence of God. Because I'm not going to lie to you and say the God factor doesn't allow ease or simplicity in ruling humans, but it also allows for people to manipulate one another. And there are some things that are done in the name of God, like the crusade, the holy war fought for God, or apologies to Muslims because the crusade are Christians. Holy war fought for God in the name of God. And then we have jihadists fighting wars in the holy name of Allah. And so these people use God to propagate hatred and to take people's lands and to kill them. So let's say God did not even exist and we are all just humans ruining ourselves. Do you think the world would be a better place? Let me know in the comment section. Keeping in mind that there is no afterlife. And because there is no afterlife, you know that the life you are living right now is your one chance at it. So you live your best life. But there are still laws in place to keep society in check so that humans are not just in the 100,000 just acting crazy. Because knowing that you live only once would make you want to live like a wilder beast. But then Do you think humans can still create a way whereby you can exhibit, or you can enjoy all your fantasies and your desires and your wildest, most depraved thoughts, but humans will still create a law and a structure that this is allowed for you, in as much as this is how this is done, and the people involved in this, not religious this time, but in these demonic, depraved activities, are all party to it. That way, everyone is allowed to live their wildest fantasies. And I know this sounds this sounds very depraved, but I want us to be just free thinkers. Just open your mind and think of a world of possibilities, different realms, different multiverses. Think of a universe where there were no gods and these humans were the ones living, and when you die, you cease to exist, and there is no afterlife. So, how do you think humans would be able to run that society perfectly? Because I think humans can run that society perfectly, but that is just a meeting. How do you think humans would be able to run that society perfectly and allow every human to live their world of satisfaction? But there still has to be law and order. But then we still create a world where people can fulfill their wildest, greatest desires. Let me know in the comment section. Now, back to Frederick. God, so basically, Was for, God was the meaning for the foundation. God was the foundation meaning for morality, and this was collapsing under the weight of science and reason. And then he has a famous line saying, "God is dead," which wasn't a celebration; it was a diagnosis. He was asking, if the old source of meaning is gone, what fills the void? His answer was that most people would fill it with nihilism, herd mentality, or shallow comfort. He wanted something bolder. In as much as I don't want to delve too deep into some aspects, I need to know the meaning of nihilism so I don't come and start telling you guys rubbish. But from the top of my head, nihilism, a nihilistic society, that is a I can't remember. Sorry. Uh, okay. Nihilism is a philosophical stance arguing that life is without objective meaning, purpose, or intrinsic value. Hmm. I think, believe it or not, if this was Nietzsche's primary thoughts when he thought to himself that the world is a place where God does not exist, then I think one, it deeply underestimates man. I think it deeply underestimates man because I think it deeply underestimates man, but I also think this is a reflection of who he is internally. Keeping in mind that this Friedrich Nietzsche we are talking about is a human that is just neutral without any external strings being pulled through him, or he doesn't have external parties pulling his strings. So let us say Friedrich Nietzsche is just a normal mortal person that is living in the 19th century Europe and thought to himself that, oh, wow, you know what? Because of the advancement of science and reason, God has a foundation for meaning and morality is not going to last, because why would I believe in a God that is very abstract, living in a different dimension that I can only feel? I can't really talk to him and I can't see him, compared to science that can explain everything. Guys, should I tell you something that just happened right now? I looked up. See, I'm about to try. I don't. I'm trying not to transcend this video. Hmm. Oh. Excuse my break. Back to my train of thought. So the first thing Friedrich thought to himself is that in a world where there is no God, and or yeah, in the world where there is no God, or God is dead, and we have just science and reason, and let's assume God is a man-made theory. The first thing Friedrich thought to himself was that one, humans would start living a life without an excuse me, humans will start living a life without an objective meaning or purpose or intrinsic value. Two, there would be herd mentality, meaning humans would just flock around other humans like a sheep. Three, there will be shallow comfort. He is not wrong, but this being a primary thought is a bit crooked. Although he did say in the next sentence that he wanted something other. But if this was his first train of thought, I think he deeply underestimates humans, because I think humans can band together to strive for something bigger than themselves. And sometimes I think the existence of God is even why humans are unable to come together for a greater purpose. Don't get me wrong, humans are quite weird and shallow, and we would have people, primarily to my own knowledge, which might be wrong, but we'll have people discriminating based on how they look, because primarily speaking, people like to flock around other humans or other people that look like them. But I think this will just solidify different humans in different groups. And this doesn't necessarily mean that humans would start living a life that has no meaning or that has no purpose. Because when humans know that no divine being is coming to save them, or they don't have to pay homage to a deity somewhere else, they can finally wake up to a reality of their own world, which they are the gods in it. And because they are the gods in it, they will be forced to take up roles and be accountable for their own actions. My phone is about to die, and so I have to end the video here for now. Follow me on this journey and let's decipher, elaborate, destroy, reconstruct, enjoy, get entertained in Nietzsche's philosophy. I am your beautiful, most magnificent host, Mr. Olasukomi Israel Ademoroti, aka Misfits. Like and subscribe. A round of applause for me because, guys, come on. I just freestyle this. I'm quite intelligent. Oh my god. That's not narcissism, that's just self appraisal. And I don't think self appraisal is a bad thing. Sometimes when you do something, or you think you've done the right thing, or you think you've tried, you should own up to your own success and achievement and clap for yourself. Because if you are always waiting for others to give you the accolades, then you probably will never get accolades, bro. First, give yourself the accolades. So if you think you've tried, clap for yourself. Because, guys, against all odds, I was able to still try to make this video. So, a round of applause for me. Against all odds, I'm still pushing, still trying to make Misfits Academy work. Against all the different things I'm going through that I cannot even share on the internet. A round of applause for me. And wherever you are watching this, a round of applause for you for trying, for not even killing yourself, because there are people out there killing themselves and you have not killed yourself. So you're strong enough to look into the future. And if you're a person who is living an amazing life, a round of applause for yourself for also being lucky enough to be living an amazing life. And if you're living a terrible life, a round of applause for yourself for still trying, for still living, for even watching this video, for watching a video for 1 minute, 1 hour, 7 minutes long. A massive round of applause for yourself. And I'm not saying your own applaud is better than the other people's applaud, but a massive round of applause because we live in a world where not most people, but a lot of people cannot watch a video for more than probably 20, 30 minutes if it's not a movie. So a round of applause for yourself. But then Moses says that it is not an attention thing, it is an interesting thing. And if something is interesting enough, people will watch it. So I hope this video has been interesting enough. Personally speaking, I think it has, but I'll watch it again